The main reason we're here this evening, and I am so excited, is to share some great information and an opportunity for all of us as coaches with my friend, my coaching colleague. He's one of us, as I mentioned, JB. Hi, JB. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, Barry. How are you?
Oh, I am excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you. I'm so glad that you're with us because, I want to understand more and more. I absolutely agree with you. Happy is cool. But I want to know more about that. And so, I understand you have a book that you've written. In fact, not only do I understand it, it was my pleasure to actually have a chance to endorse that book of yours. And here's a copy of the cover, and it's Happy is Cool, How to Ignite the True Happiness in You. And, from the first moment that I heard about this idea, and that was from your lovely mother, Maureen, who is also one of us, a CPC, who contacted me and told me that her son had written a book about happiness and told me all about it. And of course, I said, of course, I'd like to hear more and meet JB. And that's how we first met. And that was, what was that, a year and a half ago or something, do you think, JB?
Yeah, at least a year and a half ago, absolutely.
Yeah. And so since then, I've been watching the progress. But let's talk about your your book and tell us a bit about your book.
Well, first of all, Barry, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I'm honored by your testimonial of the book and just your friendship, frankly. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. I think what you're doing with the Academy is fantastic. So I commend you for that.
Thank you.
The book is called Happy is Cool, How to Ignite the True Happiness in You. And the thesis of the book is fairly simple. There are a lot of cool things in the world, but the coolest thing is to live a life of authentic happiness. And I think that's a message that oftentimes gets lost in our society, and I think it's a message that needs to be put out there. And my passion here is to try to get this message out to as many people as possible so they can improve their own personal level of happiness and then yield all the benefits that we now know come from being happy.
I know, and I want to talk about some of those benefits too. But one of the things that as I sent out invitations to this this group session, one of the questions that I pose is, what's the number one priority that we have for our clients? And that is to help them live a happy, fulfilled life. And so this book of yours is so perfect for our coaches and truly anybody that wants to live a happy life or help others people live a happy life. So why is happy cool? Why is it cool?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's cool for a lot of great reasons, but we grow up thinking that certain things are cool, and it could be having having a lot of money, or having a high flying career, or having a big house. We are kind of in society we have these messages coming at us all the time. That's really what cool is. And frankly, it's with the advent of the science of happiness, we now know that happiness really means some different things, and it's not all about the money. It's not all about having a big career. And being happy really, I believe, just makes us feel most alive, and really makes us feel intensely excited to be alive. And I just personally think that's pretty cool. I think kids growing up need to hear that message and should strive to increase their personal level of happiness. And frankly, the only way you can do that is if you understand what happiness really means and as you define it for yourself. And the book is intended to really give an overview of what what the science of happiness is, and then provide what I call coaching keys. There are 30 of them, which are essentially behaviors or thought processes that really help us achieve happiness or avoid the precursors to unhappiness. So if we're able to kind of have these things in our consciousness, we can reprogram our consciousness properly and really live what I call a happy coolness. And that's something that I hope my readers will achieve after reading the book.
Well, I'll tell you what, after I read it several times, each time I was motivated to, I would say, even a higher level of happiness, and happy to share that with everybody. Now, you have an interesting inspiration for writing the book that you shared with me, and I know all of our coaches would love to hear about this because it's true, it's genuine, and it's very sweet.
Well, I described the motivation in the book, and I really enjoyed writing this particular section of the book because, as you mentioned, I mean, I'm not doing this for nefarious reasons. I mean, I truly am moved by the topic. And it really all started several years ago when my family, we were in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, where we often go for the weekend, and we were at a water park in Lake Geneva, and I have 4 children ranging from 16 down to 11 years old right now, and this is a few years ago, so they were a little younger, and we were in the water playing, and it was just such a oh, there they are.
There they are.
the inspiration. So you've got my 4 kids. On the left is Jack. And you've got Joseph, Lauren, and Ben. The bookends are twins, and so in any event, we were all at the water park, and the kids were playing in the water. My wife and I were just sitting and watching them. I think my wife might have been reading. I had my laptop and getting some work done, and I just looked at the kids, and they were having so much fun. They were splashing each other, smiling, giggling, and I had enough. I had gone down the slide way too many times, so I was just relaxing at the moment, and so I don't know, maybe because I was in a good place, an overwhelming feeling just came over me at that moment, and I just felt really happy, and I wanted them to be happy for the rest of their lives like they were right now. And so an idea came to me, a bold idea, I think, tough to satisfy, but I wanted to try to come up with some things that I can pass on to them that were, just tips, things that I've learned over the years, common sense, frankly. And I started to jot these ideas down on my laptop, and just little, simple little suggestions to really motivate them to live as happy a life as possible. Because we all know there are a lot of challenges as you get older, not only in your youth, but as you become a young adult and get older from there. So I wanted them to be empowered as much as possible with some great ideas, some common sense, and a few approaches. So I just started jotting these ideas down. I came up with 30 of them. I wasn't intending to write a book. Had no thought of writing a book in my mind. But at the end of that little session, I had 30 ideas, essentially 30 pages. It was really kind of a memo at the time. And I remember letting my wife read some of it, and she really encouraged me to keep writing, develop some of those ideas. And so that's really how it all started, and it really went from there. I kept writing, and I let a few of my friends read it, and they said, you know what, it's really not just for kids. It could be applicable to everyone. Everybody wants to be happy, and it doesn't matter how old you are, the principles are fairly similar and consistent throughout your life. And so that really encouraged me to keep writing, and it kind of developed from there, evolved, and it's funny because I had put everything together, and this is after working on it for a very long time, and I let one final friend read it, and he said, you know, JB, I love your book, but you don't have any stories, you don't have any anecdotes or examples in it. And I had an aha moment. I said, you're right, I can't believe I did that. So I spent another year going through the book and rewriting it and putting in a lot of examples and stories and things that were important to me that I thought would be interesting for readers. So it's chock full of those stories and examples, and you know, and it just kind of developed at that point into a full-fledged book.
Well, that was great advice from a friend. It reads so well. Now, you also, as you got more and more into this, you obviously, based on what I've read in the book, you did some research about happiness and the science of happiness and the psychology of happiness. And so really, what is happiness?
Well, you know, it's really impossible to define 100%. You know, we all self-identify being happy, which means we're really the ultimate individual in our lives to tell us if we're happy. It's ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, but the movement in psychology called positive psychology really has taken you know, this whole idea of focusing on the positive, you know, really promoting mental health rather than just, you know, merely treating an illness. So it's been a lot of great psychologists who have performed studies and have published a number of books on the science of happiness. And my book is not intended to be a scientific book. It's really intended to be more of a practical book that can be used essentially as a workbook. But as I got further into the topic, I started reading a lot of these studies and a lot of the foremost books on the topic, including some writing by really the founder of positive psychology, Martin Seligman, who's the director of positive psychology Center, I should say, at the University of Pennsylvania. So, and the way Seligman defines authentic happiness or true happiness is essentially enduring happiness. You know, it's not these periodic, ephemeral surges of happiness, but it's really more of a profound characterization. And so he really distinguishes between pleasures and gratifications. And you know, this is really insightful, I think, from Seligman, because he really defines pleasures as those delights that have clear sensory or strong emotional components, like bodily pleasures, or what he calls these higher pleasures like bliss and hilarity or excitement. But he says those pleasures burn off quickly. You know, we get used to them. The potency wears off after a while, and whereas gratifications, on the other hand, are activities that we very much enjoy doing. You know, he encourages us to tap into our signature strengths as we engage in those activities and really become immersed in them. And so what that does is just increases our likelihood of having this more enduring type of happiness. So that's really the intent of the book, is to hone people in and on this concept of happiness, an enduring level of happiness, and hopefully a state of flow where they can just enjoy life to the fullest. And I firmly believe that if you're doing what you truly love to do and you're in a state of flow, it really gives you a glimpse as to the meaning of your life.
I absolutely agree, and I think I understand that state of happiness, and you know, we look around us and we see some folks that, you know, frankly aren't happy, or their happiness is fleeting. It appears it's not a state of authentic happiness. And so, as you look at your book, Happy is Cool, do you think it's kind of a self-discovery guidebook?
Self-discovery guide? Yeah, I think it is. You know, it's intended to be that, frankly, I think, because, and I think Kirkus Reviews actually did a review of the book, and I was honored with some of the thoughts that they had for the book, and one of their ideas here was that it's really they characterized the book as a straightforward, concise self-help guide for readers who have the courage to trust their own feelings.
Yeah.
And that's really what the book is intended to do, is really have readers identify with some feelings that perhaps they haven't had time to identify with or have ignored for whatever reason, either knowingly or not, and to really give them an opportunity through the worksheets. You know, the way the book is set up is it's really a coaching. It's set up like a coaching session.
It is.
So you've got a topic, and then you've got 3 worksheets. The first worksheet is 5 questions that you ask yourself, and then the second worksheet is a visualization exercise where you visualize your life in the future based on that topic the way you intend it, and then you set 3 goals for yourself. So through that process, you will discover a little bit more about yourself, especially relative to that particular coaching key.
Yeah. Well, of course, that rings so, resonates so well with our coaches because, the first step when we work with our clients is helping them develop that crystal clear vision of where they want to go and then how they're going to get there. So everybody, I'm sure, is nodding their head yes when you say that. I want to get into the why I'm so excited about having our coaches understand the opportunities available to them in your book, the 30 coaching keys that you mentioned. But we talked about what authentic happiness is, but there are really some benefits. I mean, some real measurable benefits of living a happy lifestyle, isn't there?
Yeah, there most certainly is, and as I mentioned, the positive psychologists have identified a number of benefits, and many of these probably sound like common sense, and they are, but understanding that there's science behind it helps us understand and appreciate the gravity of the situation and how important it is to really improve your own level of happiness. I mentioned in the book, for example, increasing your personal level of happiness will allow you to increase your emotional intelligence. That ability to perceive and appraise and express emotions accurately and adaptively, frankly. And that's a very important tool in life generally. As an attorney, I'm dealing with people's emotions all the time in business, on a personal level, and it really helps to be able to navigate that as best as possible, and in personal relationships, in a business context, in a familial context. So increasing happiness is tied now to increased emotional intelligence. Another really important benefit is it increases productivity at work. There have been a lot of studies done as to how employees have higher levels of productivity if their workplaces encourage and promote happiness and give the employees some tools to help them increase their level of happiness, whether it's job crafting or otherwise. But a couple other offhand I think of are increases your ability to socially interact. You have more energy. Increased likability. We all have to be liked. Increases creativity, and actually there's a coaching key on creativity in my book. So there's a myriad really of benefits that will arise if we pay a little bit more attention to our own personal level of happiness.
Excellent, thank you. Now, one of the things that I really think that the coaches are going to love is right on your website, and I just wanted to share that with them. And this is, you can go to, and we'll show you how to get there, and find this. It's called the Baseline Happiness and Obstacles to Happiness Assessment. Tell us about that, JB.
Sure. This is a worksheet that is on our website, the Intense Coaching and Consulting Worldwide website. And it was intended really to be just a freebie for folks that visited the website and just wanted to kind of have a quick glimpse as to their personal level of happiness. And basically the idea here is that, by assessing, there are several, as we know, with the Circle of Individual Perspective, there are 6 primary areas of our lives that are noted there on the screen, and the various areas are reflected in this worksheet and are intended to really help us assess our own level of happiness in each category. And the idea being, we can get a better picture of our happiness generally, but more importantly, we can identify areas for further attention and improvement. So we can really pinpoint areas for focus, and this really becomes important for coaches, I think, because we're coaching clients. Sometimes it's hard to figure out where the client really needs more help in one area versus another. And having them walk through this exercise could be very helpful in making the coaching sessions more efficient overall. So basically, you go through each of these areas, and on the worksheet there's an example. For example, the career piece or professional area, you basically define your happiness. What does happiness mean for you in the context of your career or in the context of your profession? Because we're going to define happiness sometimes differently depending on each area of life. So, for example, it says, the answer is happiness is feeling appreciated by my superiors and getting promoted to the position of vice president. And then there's a question, how happy I feel from a professional perspective based on that definition of happiness. So you define what happiness is for that category, and then you basically rank yourself in terms of how happy you are from 1 to 10. And then you go on to really what is critical here, and that's what obstacles are there in your life to achieving a maximum, in this case, professional or career happiness. And the example is someone might not have an MBA, and maybe their company requires an MBA of its vice presidents if that individual wants to ascend to the vice presidency. So you walk through each of these. A coach can use these with their clients on the front end of a coaching relationship to really start a discussion about the Circle of Individual Perspective and really hone in on those particular areas that may require a little bit more focus than others.
I love the way you ask about their definition, and because you get a deeper perspective than just a straight rating of on a scale of 1 to 10. But exactly. You really and so those are great coaching questions. And then I also love the fact that you ask about what obstacles. Because then you can help your clients develop strategies to overcome those obstacles. It's just I think it's a wonderful tool, and as I said, JB's made it available to all of you, and you simply go to his website at intensecoaching.com, and on that first page you'll see under the different categories, life coaching, business development, consulting. You'll go down a couple more and you'll see free happiness assessment. And you just click on that and you'll be able to get to this page and you can download that. And JB is gracious enough to say, hey, use that for yourself and use that for your clients if you like. I think it's just it's really well thought out, and of course I love it because it fits so perfectly with our Circle of Individual Perspective, and it fits right in with our coaching system. So thank you so much.
It really does, and thank you. Just one point of clarification: if you go to the sites, there is a different form. Technically, it's the same idea, but it just has the baseline happiness assessment. The form that was on the screen was really an updated form specifically for our coaching protocol, which incorporates the obstacles piece. And if anyone who is participating in this webinar would like a copy of that, all you need to do is email me, and I will shoot you out a copy of the baseline happiness and obstacles to happiness assessment. And my email is jb@intensecoaching.com.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Thank you. So it's jb@intensecoaching.com. Yeah, you might want to jot that down. That's excellent. Okay. Well, we've talked about the 30 coaching keys, and when you have a chance to read JB's book, and it really is an opportunity for you to kind of coach yourself through the book and then see how powerful it can be, what a great set of tools are available to you for your clients as well. There are 30 different keys, and I asked JB to pick a couple, and he picked a couple of my favorites. And so let's take a look at what we have. And so, as I say in the book, the book is available through Amazon, and I'll say that again. And it's available, I guess it's also available on their Kindle, but if you're going to get the book, I highly recommend you get the hard copy book, because you can actually use it. And anyhow, so there are 30 coaching keys. And let's just take a look at a couple of favorites here. And this is one of my absolute favorite. Tell us about how to beware of antagonists. And
man.
Why do we need
This is a doozy, Barry, a doozy. When you asked me to pick out a couple, it was actually very difficult, because I believe in all 30 of them, but I wanted to pick out a couple that I thought would be particularly helpful to coaches, because we deal with clients who come to us usually trying to get assistance with an issue that they're currently struggling with. And so this particular key, beware of antagonists, is particularly helpful, I think, in terms of what we do as coaches. And essentially, antagonists are people in our lives who will be roadblocks to our happiness. They really keep us from reaching our goals in life. And these could be just about anybody in our lives. It could be a friend, it could be a spouse, it could be a parent, a child, it could be a boss. Really, anyone that you come in contact with could be a roadblock to your happiness. And one of the big problems that I think a lot of us have is that sometimes we don't even know how to identify these individuals in our lives. And we may not be achieving our goals, but we don't have the skills to know how to identify them. So, and I believe that's very simple to do. You just have to be conscious of this fact that there are antagonists out there, and sometimes it's hard to really admit that maybe a loved one is an antagonist. So a lot of times it's easier to ignore, but you can identify them pretty easily. They sometimes have unreasonable criticism of our goals. That's a really overt way that they express themselves. They could just outright prohibit you from doing things, or not provide that level of support that you're looking for. These are the people who will say, you will never succeed, or you can't do that. And what's interesting is that in the book, I just use a couple of examples. Being a writer, I understand how difficult it is for first-time authors to try to get someone to recognize their work. And there are numerous stories of very famous authors today that could just never sell their first book until just one person, believed in it. So, but they didn't give up. Those were those people that reviewed it and said, it's just not good enough. It's not for us. Where would we be if great authors just gave up? And same goes for musicians. I've worked a lot with musicians over the years. I used to manage a number of musical artists, And it's a tough business, the music industry. And I witnessed a lot of groups deal with a lot of antagonists in the music industry saying no, shutting the door, and where would we be if some of the great bands and artists that we love just gave up and didn't pursue and didn't get over those roadblocks? So I think the first step here is to identify them, and the second step is really to have a strategy on how to deal with these individuals. And first of all, if you don't identify it, you can't even implement a strategy. But if you've identified the individual or individuals, then you just have to have a solid strategy, and it may not be that difficult. In many cases, it could just be having a very direct conversation with them, so they understand that you don't appreciate the negativity and really would prefer that they refrain from doing what they're doing. Sometimes they just need to kind of be told. And in some cases, people are jealous. There's a lot of jealous people out there who don't want you to succeed because they are jealous, period. And in some cases, if you can't change that emotion, the strategy may be to disassociate from that friend or whoever it is that is impeding you. A lot of employees in the workplace deal with a lot of antagonists, whether they be bosses or coworkers. And a lot of employees a lot of people in the workforce do have proper means of addressing the negativity within the organization. There are channels that need to be used. You can seek counsel of close friends or a more senior person in the organization. So the idea here is to recognize that they're there, have a strategy, and stay on track. And really don't let antagonists be impediments to your personal goals and, frankly, your personal level of happiness.
Yeah, I tell you, I call them dream stealers or naysayers. And
Yep.
when I decided to quit my public school teaching job, my tenured teaching job, to start Sylvan, family members, friends, colleagues, I was surprised how many people tried to steal my dream by telling me why it was, wasn't going to work. But, having this, being able to walk through this, and having a really crystal clear vision that you can hold on to and defend, is a message that, of course, all of us, understand as part of the system. So this is perfect. This is truly one of my favorites, because these guys are all around, and it's just a matter of making sure you don't let them steal your dream.
And there's more people like that out there than you think, because a lot of people don't have the right tools to achieve their own goals. So a goal of theirs becomes stopping people from achieving their goals. So the worksheets at what I do in the book is I group 5 coaching keys together, and then that's followed by 5 sets of worksheets. So each key has 3 worksheets, and you ask for example, on this one, you really have to make a list of those individuals in your life that are making it very difficult for you to achieve your goals. It starts as simple as that, with a list.
Yeah.
And once you have the list, then you can do something with it. Without the list, then there's really nothing you can do.
Yeah, that's an excellent coaching exercise. Now, there's another one that we have to share with you that is another one of my favorites, and it's coaching key number 28. Take risks. Talk about this for us, JB.
Sure. Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites, and maybe I'm a little biased because I found a quote in the book. I start out each coaching key with a quote by someone who's famous, or in a couple cases it's anonymous, but it's just a good saying. But in this chapter, in this coaching key, I start out with a quote from Paulo Coelho, who's a Brazilian lyricist and novelist, but he says, quote, "You have to take risks. We will only understand the miracle of life fully when we allow the unexpected to happen," close quote. And the first time I read that, it just stopped me in my tracks, and I had to read it a few more times, and I really can't consider it more, because I'm so moved by this concept of taking responsible risks. And just so we're clear, we're talking about things that are safe and responsible. But the idea here is, again, very simple, as most of the book. Routines will deaden us. I firmly believe that routines will deaden us. Their routines can be comforting, they can be safe, but they really do have a way of slowly reducing our zest for life and our ambition. And once those routines are formed, they can be really, really hard to escape. So what I encourage people to do is really constantly scrutinize their routines and really ask, are they holding us back from achieving our goals? I tell just a very brief story in the book about a very good friend of mine who is a consultant, and she worked for a large consulting company for a number of years, was doing very well, moving up in the company, and had her own book of business, and she was just rocking and rolling, and but she at some point really her happiness level was waning, and there was something burning inside of her to really be her own person and be an entrepreneur and step out from the crowd. But she said she hemmed and hawed for a very, very long period of time because she knew it would be the biggest risk of her life. And we talked a lot about it. Risks can be scary. So she ended up taking the plunge, and we've heard these stories before, but people do in fact take huge risks in life, and I believe that while they're scary, if they're calculated, it's the fact that they're scary that leads us to happiness. If we succeed, we're going to be happy for obvious reasons, right? We've achieved our goal. But even if we fail and take a risk, we're really left with a feeling of confidence and pride in trying, and we're really spared that albatross of regret, which I believe is a 100% happiness killer. So in any event, once my friend took that plunge and started her own company, she soon realized that she was happier than she's ever been in her life, and still doing great and growing her business. So I love stories that show people succeed, but even if people fail taking risks, like I said, you will not have that albatross of regret for the rest of your life, because that could be crushing from a happiness perspective.
Thank you. The accolades that you're receiving from all kinds of folks, coaches, psychologists, the people that have read your book, how does that make you feel, my friend?
It humbles me, Barry,
does it make you happy?
Honest. It makes me happy. I wish I was a little cooler, but it does. I have been, starting with yours, your testimonial. It was I was so honored to get your support for this project, and I cannot thank you enough. I've been really happy with the response from people who are psychologists, religious leaders. I've got a Grammy Award-winning artist who wrote a great testimonial for me. I was so happy for that. And also, if you look at the cover of the book, you see a little quote at the top. In the course of my studies, I was able to connect with one of the top positive psychologists, happiness researchers in the world, Robert Diener. He is known as the Indiana Jones of positive psychology because he travels around the world doing studies and coaching people. And so I'm looking at the cover myself, and I was so pleased that he just really reduced it down to this. He says I offer 30 practical suggestions for living a more fulfilling life. So, I'm not professing to be, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not professing to be a scholar at this. But when a scholar like Dr. Diener, says it's a practical, these are practical suggestions, that's exactly why I wrote the book. Yeah. Okay, I wanted it to be, I didn't want it to be there are a number of footnotes for great, future reading for readers. I encourage everybody to take a look at the underlying source, but It really was intended to be a workbook that people can use, that coaches can use to come up with great questions to ask clients on different areas of their lives, and so in any event, so I've been very humbled by the support, and I just I'm having fun with the project. It's as you know, Barry, it's a passion of mine, and I just hope to get the message out to as many people as possible.
Well, I'll tell you what, in my mind, and I guess in Ariana Huffington's mind, you're an expert in happiness, my friend. I say that because JB has written some blogs about happiness in Huffington Post, so he's my famous friend. Where can we get the book? We can get the book at Amazon.com, and that's it's available other places, but this is the easiest place to find it, I found. So if you'd like to have a copy, just visit Amazon.com and search Happy is Cool, and you'll find a treasure trove of information, not only to improve the lives of your clients, but I bet you to improve your own lives as well.